Well, my name is Rachel Carter. I'm 29 years old and I work as a medical researcher in Boston. I never thought that coming home early would change my life forever. It started on a Friday evening. I had just returned from a medical workshop in Chicago. It was a big deal. I presented new findings that could help doctors treat aggressive cancers. The workshop lasted 3 exhausting days, and all I wanted was to get into my pajamas, order some Thai food, and sleep in my own bed. But the moment I turned onto my street, I knew something was wrong. Cars were parked bumper to bumper all down the road. My driveway was blocked. The sound of laughter and music filled the air. I frowned. Was there a block party I didn't know about? Then I saw it. My house. My house was glowing with string lights. People were in the backyard. Balloons floated in the air, and across the porch hung a huge white banner with gold letters. Family means forever. I stood frozen in the middle of the sidewalk, my suitcase in one hand and my laptop bag in the other. My heart started to race. I walked up the driveway confused. I recognized some faces, but barely. Cousins I hadn't seen in years. Great aunts and uncles who didn't even send Christmas cards. A few people gave me awkward smiles, others avoided eye contact. No one seemed happy to see me. Then I saw my brother Kevin near the grill, flipping burgers like he was the king of the backyard. His wife Stephanie wore a sundress and a huge fake smile. And my mother Diana was laughing loudly with a group of relatives holding a red plastic cup. I took a deep breath and walked toward her. "Mom," I said. She turned and blinked. "Rachel, what are you doing here?" "What am I doing here? I live here." "Oh," she said, trying to play it cool. "We didn't expect you back until Sunday night." "That's not the point," I said, lowering my voice. "Why is there a party at our house? Why wasn't I told?" "It's a family reunion," Kevin said suddenly behind me. "We didn't think you'd mind. It's just one night." "Did you forget I co-own this house?" I said, now glaring at both of them. Kevin raised his eyebrows. "Technically, it's not like you're here that much. You're always traveling for work." I clenched my jaw. "That doesn't mean you can use the house for a party without telling me." "You're overreacting," Mom said, waving her hand. "It's just family." But that word family hit me hard, because growing up, family never really included me. Kevin was always the favorite. When he brought home C's, my parents threw him a dinner. When I brought home straight A's, I got a quick good job and maybe a pat on the back. He played baseball. They never missed a game. I was on the debate team. They only showed up once, and that was by accident. Dad was different. Before he passed away from heart failure 5 years ago, he used to leave me little notes. "Proud of you, or you're going to change the world." But he always made sure Mom and Kevin didn't see. After he died, things got worse. Mom couldn't handle the house bills alone, so Kevin suggested we buy it together. He and Stephanie would live on the first floor. I'd take the second. Mom moved into the small in-law apartment we built in the garage. I paid for my share using my research fellowship money. Kevin used funds from Stephanie's parents. Everything was documented in writing, something my lawyer friend Barbara suggested. At the time, I thought it was unnecessary. It was family after all. Now I was glad we put everything in writing. I looked around again at all the people, laughing, eating, toasting to family, and I felt like a stranger in my own home. "I need everyone out by tomorrow morning," I said firmly. "And next time you plan to throw a party, ask me first." Kevin scoffed. "It's just one party." I turned to leave but then stopped. "Also, who paid for the decorations? The catering?" "Mom covered most of it," Kevin said. That didn't sound right. Mom had been struggling with money since Dad passed. She often asked me for help with groceries or medication. Something wasn't adding up. I dragged my suitcase upstairs to my part of the house. It was exactly how I left it, but colder somehow. I sat on the edge of my bed and listened to the muffled noise downstairs. I should have been sleeping peacefully after a long trip. Instead, I lay awake, thinking about how little respect I got in a house I helped pay for. How I was never truly seen, not as a daughter, not as a sister, not even as a co-owner. I thought back to a time when I was 12. I had won a citywide science competition. I came home beaming, trophy in hand. My mom barely looked up from the TV. That same night, Kevin got detention for skipping class. My parents still took him out for pizza because he had a rough day. That moment stayed with me. And now here I was, 29 years old, a medical researcher working on cutting-edge cancer treatments, and still treated like a guest in my own home. But what I didn't know that night was that the party was just the beginning. Within 48 hours, I would uncover secrets, betrayals, and a plan that could take away everything I'd built, unless I fought back. And believe me, I was ready to fight. I woke up early the next morning. My muscles ached from travel, but my mind was already racing. The house was quiet. Most of the guests had either gone home or were still asleep on air mattresses in the living room. I tiptoed downstairs. The kitchen was a mess. Red cups, half-eaten casseroles, crumpled napkins everywhere. My stomach turned at the sight of it. I made a cup of coffee and sat at the dining table, watching the sunlight spill through the windows. I needed answers. Something didn't sit right with me about how easily Kevin and Mom had thrown a party in our home, like I didn't exist. Just then, Stephanie walked in, wearing silk pajamas and acting like she owned the place. "Oh, good morning, Rachel," she said, smiling way too brightly. "Morning," I replied flatly. "Sorry about the mess. I'll have someone clean it up later today." "Someone?" "Yes, we've hired a cleaning lady for weekends now." Kevin said it was easier with all the entertaining we've been doing. I blinked. "What entertaining?" She shrugged. "You're never here, so we figured." I held up a hand. "You figured wrong. This is still my home. I paid half the down payment. I have just as much say as Kevin." Stephanie didn't reply. She just poured herself some orange juice and walked out of the kitchen like we hadn't just had an argument. A few minutes later, Mom came in. She looked tired but chipper, still wearing her party clothes from the night before. "You're up early," she said, yawning. "I couldn't sleep. Mom, we need to talk." She sat across from me, holding her cup of tea. "About what?" "About the party, the decorations, the food. How did you pay for all of it?" She hesitated. "It wasn't that expensive. Please don't lie to me. I know you've been asking me for grocery money every other month." She sighed. "Fine, Kevin helped. He said it was time for the family to reconnect, especially after your dad's death, and he didn't think to even ask me. You're so busy with your research, Rachel. We didn't want to bother you." I shook my head. Being busy doesn't mean I don't deserve respect. I'm not some random tenant. I co-own this place. She looked annoyed now. "Well, maybe if you were around more often, you'd understand how things work here." I stood up and walked away. The conversation was going nowhere. That afternoon, I called my lawyer friend Barbara. "Something's off," I told her. "Can you double-check the ownership agreement we created when we bought the house?" Barbara agreed and promised to get back to me. Meanwhile, I went upstairs to my room and pulled out a locked drawer in my desk. Inside was a copy of the contract Kevin and I had signed. It clearly stated we were equal owners. Any major changes to the property or events that involved public access had to be discussed and agreed upon. I snapped a photo of it and sent it to Barbara for reference. Then I decided to take a walk around the neighborhood to clear my head. I needed space to think. That's when I bumped into Mrs. Callahan, our next-door neighbor. She was walking her small dog, Murphy. "Rachel," she said, surprised. "You're back." "Hi, Mrs. Callahan. Yeah, just got in last night. I thought you moved out." I blinked. "Why would you think that?" "Oh," she said, looking uncomfortable. "I overheard Kevin telling the mailman that the upstairs unit would be available soon. He said your work was relocating you to New York." My heart stopped. "That's not true," I said quickly. "Oh dear, I'm sorry. I must have misunderstood." "No," I said, more to myself than to her. "You didn't." I rushed back to the house and went straight to Kevin's room. He wasn't there. His office door was open though. I stepped in and looked around. There were papers on his desk, some insurance forms, his golf club membership invoice, and a manila folder labeled Property Transfer Proposal 125 Winding Lane. That was our address. I opened the folder and scanned the contents. It was a draft contract. Kevin and Mom were listed as the only future owners. The proposal suggested I was voluntarily vacating the property and transferring interest in exchange for an unspecified settlement amount. My hands trembled. I couldn't believe what I was reading. They were planning to steal my house. A few minutes later, Kevin came in, holding a smoothie. "What are you doing in here?" he asked sharply. "Is this your plan?" I said, holding up the folder. "You want me out?" He didn't deny it. "Look, Rachel, this setup isn't working anymore. You're never here. Mom's getting older. We need to think long term." "Long term?" I snapped. "You mean cut me out?" "It's not personal," he said with a smirk. "It's just easier if one person handles everything." I stared at him. "So you lie to the neighbors, try to make it look like I'm moving. You throw parties. You make the house feel like I don't belong here." "It's not about making you feel anything. It's just practical." I wanted to scream, but instead, I walked out of his office, gripping the folder like a weapon. I called Barbara again. "You were right," I said. "They're trying to push me out. Can you come by tomorrow? I'll be there first thing in the morning," she said. That night I didn't sleep much. I sat in bed thinking about every time I let them walk over me, every time I gave in, every time I hoped they'd see me as part of the family. But this time would be different. This time I would fight back. Barbara showed up at 8 a.m. sharp the next morning, dressed in jeans, a blazer, and carrying her laptop bag like she meant business. I met her at the front door, relieved to see a friendly face. "Nice house," she said, glancing around. "Shame someone's trying to steal it from you." "Tell me about it," I muttered, closing the door behind her. We headed upstairs to my part of the house, where I showed her the original contract, Kevin's fake transfer proposal, and explained everything that had happened since I got back. She nodded as she listened, flipping through documents. "Okay," she said finally. "You have a legally binding agreement. Any transfer of ownership has to be signed by you. Kevin knows this. That's why he's trying to pressure you into leaving instead of going through the courts. So he can't just file something behind my back." I asked. "No," she said, "but he can make your life so uncomfortable that you consider giving up." I sat back exhausted. "That's already happening." Barbara gave me a reassuring look. "Don't worry, I've dealt with cases like this. We'll hit back harder." She opened her laptop and began drafting a formal letter, a cease and desist notice to Kevin and my mother, warning them against any further attempts to interfere with my legal rights to the property. We'd also include a copy of the co-ownership agreement and evidence of their shady behavior. "I'll send this to Kevin by noon," she said. "But I also suggest you get ahead of this. Talk to some of the relatives who are here. Make it clear you're not moving out, and this house isn't just his." "You think that'll help?" Barbara smirked. "People talk, especially family. If you plant the right seed, word will spread, and that might make Kevin back off." That afternoon, I put on a clean outfit and went downstairs. A few relatives were still hanging around, two of my mom's cousins, an uncle I hadn't seen since high school, and a young woman named Ellie, who I vaguely remembered was Kevin's goddaughter. They were in the living room chatting when I walked in. "Hey everyone," I said casually. They turned to look at me, surprised. "Rachel," said Uncle Marvin, "we didn't see you at the party much." "I wasn't really invited," I said, forcing a smile. A few of them exchanged looks. "But this is still my home," I added. "I co-own the house. Actually, I paid for the entire second floor renovation." "Oh," Ellie said, frowning. "Kevin said you were moving out." "Not true," I said, said, looking her straight in the eyes. He's been trying to push me out without telling the truth. I'm not going anywhere. They didn't say much after that, but I could tell they were thinking. Good, let them talk. Later that evening, I saw Kevin in the kitchen, reading the letter Barbara had emailed him. His jaw was tight, his lips pressed into a hard line. Really, he said, holding up the letter. You're bringing in lawyers now? You tried to take my house, Kevin, I said calmly. I'm just protecting what's mine. He scoffed. You're so dramatic. No one was trying to take anything. I stepped closer. You lied to the neighbors. You drafted a fake contract. You threw a party here without asking. You've been acting like I don't exist. Kevin leaned on the counter, annoyed. Why do you even care? You're always gone. You don't belong in this life. You're off doing your fancy research with your scientist friends. You don't get what it means to have a real family. That hit me hard. I stared at him, suddenly calm. You think I don't know what family means? I said. You think family is just cookouts and fake smiles and pretending everything's fine while pushing people out? No, Kevin. Real family shows up. They respect your space. They don't steal from you or lie about you. He opened his mouth to say something, but I held up my hand. You made your choice. Now live with it. I turned and walked upstairs. The next few days were tense. Kevin stopped talking to me. Mom gave me the silent treatment. Stephanie avoided eye contact altogether. But something else started to happen. I got a message from Ellie on Facebook. Hey, Rachel. I'm sorry about what happened. You deserve better. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Then Uncle Marvin called me one night. I talked to your mom, told her what Kevin's doing is wrong. She didn't say much, but she's thinking about it. Just wanted you to know you're not alone. Even Mrs. Callahan next door brought over cookies and whispered, don't let them bully you, sweetie. You belong here. Word was spreading and not in Kevin's favor. Barbara advised me to start documenting everything, every conversation, every suspicious action, every late night visitor Kevin had. If things escalated, we'd be ready to take it to court. I followed her advice. Then one evening while organizing receipts in the kitchen, I heard something that made my stomach twist. Kevin and Stephanie were talking on the patio just outside the window. They didn't know I was there. Don't worry, Stephanie whispered. We'll get her out. We'll say she's unstable. Maybe even get a restraining order if she pushes too hard. Kevin laughed. Yeah, she's always been the weird one. My hands shook. They weren't just trying to pressure me, they were planning to ruin me. That night, I didn't cry. I wrote everything down, and I made a decision. It was time to stop playing defense. It was time to take back control. I didn't sleep that night. The sound of Kevin laughing on the patio replayed in my mind over and over. She's always been the weird one. His voice echoed in my chest like a slap. By morning, the numbness had turned into something stronger, clarity. I wasn't going to run. I wasn't going to let them rewrite the story of who I was in my own house. I called Barbara. I need to meet with a property investigator, I told her. If they're lying to neighbors and drawing up fake contracts, I need proof. I want everything documented, every financial move, every attempt to discredit me. I want to be ready. Barbara didn't hesitate. I know someone. She's sharp, quiet, and fast. I'll send her your way today. That afternoon, I met Clarice, mid-40s, serious, with kind eyes and a notebook that never left her hand. She listened to everything, took pictures of Kevin's draft proposal, checked the tax documents on file, even asked to take a look at the garbage cans for clues. Garbage? I asked, raising an eyebrow. You'd be surprised what people throw away when they think they've won, she said with a smirk. While she worked, I sat on the porch with a notebook of my own. I began writing down everything, not just about the house, but about my life, my research, my journey, my late nights in the lab, the sacrifices I'd made to help people I would never meet, the time I missed birthdays, skipped holidays, and worked through exhaustion to push cancer treatment forward, while my own family barely acknowledged what I did. For so long, I let them make me feel invisible, like I wasn't enough. But they were wrong, and now I was done staying quiet. The next day I got an unexpected knock on my door. It was Mom. She looked tired, no makeup, hair unbrushed, not the version of her that usually floated through social events smiling like a queen. Can we talk? She asked softly. I let her in wordlessly. We sat in the living room. The silence stretched. I got your lawyer's letter, she said finally. Kevin didn't take it well. I don't care how he took it, I replied. She flinched, then sighed. I didn't know what he was planning. Not really. I thought maybe if we had the house to ourselves, things would feel easier. Easier for who? She looked down. For me. I stared at her. You let him lie about me. You let him treat me like a visitor in my own home. I didn't mean for it to go this far, but you let it, I said. My voice was calm but firm. You always do. Tears filled her eyes. You were always the strong one, Rachel. I figured you'd be fine. That hurt more than I expected. Being strong doesn't mean I don't need support, I said quietly. It just means I stopped expecting it from you. She wiped her face. What are you going to do? I'm going to protect myself, I said. If that means taking Kevin to court, I will. If it means selling my half and walking away with what's mine, I'll do that too. But I'm not letting him take it from me. She nodded slowly. Before she left, she turned at the door. Your dad would have been proud of you. I know I haven't said it, but I am too. I didn't respond. I didn't know if I believed her. By the end of the week, Clarice had collected enough evidence to make even Barbara raise her eyebrows. Kevin's been trying to change the utility bills to his name only, she said. He also sent a message to a local real estate agent about taking over the full property by fall. And here's the kicker. He's been using your share of the home insurance payment to fund his backyard remodel. My blood boiled. So what
what now? I asked. Barbara smiled. Now we file a formal injunction. You can freeze any changes to the property. He won't be able to sell, rent, or remodel without your approval. We can also request a financial audit on shared expenses. And if he pushes back, Barbara grinned wider, then we go public. You're a respected medical researcher. He's a guy who sells life insurance and throws parties. I like your odds. That weekend, I made my own move. I hosted a small get-together on the front lawn. I invited Mrs. Callahan, Ellie, Uncle Marvin, and a few others who'd reached out after the party. I served lemonade, set up some chairs, and played soft music. People came. They asked questions. I answered honestly. I told them about my research, about the cancer patients I was trying to help, about the funding I'd contributed to this house, and about the lies Kevin had told to make me disappear. One by one, they listened, and they believed me. By the end of the evening, I saw Kevin watching us from the window, his face unreadable. The next morning, he stormed into the kitchen while I was making coffee. What do you think you're doing? He snapped. Living in my house, I said simply. Same as you. You're making me look bad in front of everyone. You did that yourself. He paced back and forth. This is war, Rachel. You want to bring in lawyers and spies and tell everyone your side. Fine, but don't expect me to back down. I turned to him calmly. I don't expect you to back down. I expect you to lose. That night I slept better than I had in weeks. Not because everything was fixed, but because for once I wasn't scared. I wasn't alone. And I wasn't invisible. The day of the hearing arrived 2 weeks later. I wore a navy blue dress, kept my hair simple, and brought a thick folder with everything Barbara and Clarice had helped me collect. Emails, contracts, receipts, and statements from neighbors and relatives. I was ready. Kevin didn't look so confident. He walked into the courthouse with Stephanie by his side, his tie slightly crooked, holding a thin stack of papers. His eyes met mine across the lobby, and for a moment the arrogance was gone. He looked cornered. Barbara gave my shoulder a light squeeze. Let him worry, she whispered. We've got this. The courtroom was small, just a judge, the two of us, and our attorneys. Kevin tried to act calm, saying the whole situation was a misunderstanding, that he thought I wanted out, and that he'd only started the party planning to celebrate family. The judge wasn't impressed. Barbara stood and calmly laid out our case. My legal half ownership, the written agreement signed and notarized, Kevin's draft transfer forms, his attempt to change utility accounts behind my back, evidence of misusing joint funds, and the false narrative spread around the neighborhood. Then came the kicker. Clarice had found text messages between Kevin and a contractor planning renovations without my permission. And worse, a message from Kevin to a friend saying, once she's out, I'll have the whole place. The judge leaned back in his chair and sighed. Mr. Carter, he said, you're lucky your sister didn't already file for damages. If this behavior continues, I'll issue a restraining order and recommend a forced sale of the property with penalties against you. Kevin's face turned red. He didn't say a word. The judge ruled in my favor. He froze all major property decisions until both parties agreed in writing. Kevin was ordered to return my share of the home insurance funds within 30 days. If he failed, Barbara could move forward with a civil suit. We walked out of the courtroom in silence. I felt like I could breathe again for the first time in weeks. Later that evening, I sat on the back porch with a cup of tea. The sky was soft and pink. The air smelled like summer, and for once the house felt peaceful. Then I heard footsteps. Kevin walked out onto the grass, hands in his pockets. He looked tired. Can we talk? He asked. I didn't answer right away. I just stared at him. I messed up, he said finally. I let Mom get into my head. I thought if I controlled the house, I'd finally be seen as the one who had it all together. You mean you wanted to be the golden child again? I said flatly. He looked down. Yeah, I guess I did. I sighed. You didn't just hurt me. You betrayed me. You tried to erase me from my own life. I know, he whispered. And I'm sorry. I didn't say anything, because I wasn't ready to forgive him. Maybe I never would, but I was ready to move on. 2 months later, I made my decision. I called Barbara and told her I wanted to sell my half of the house, but not to Kevin. I've been offered a research grant in San Diego, I said. It's a dream job. New team, new lab, new life. Barbara was thrilled. You're not running away, Rachel. You're choosing yourself. That afternoon, I knocked on Mom's door. She opened it slowly, unsure of what to expect. I'm moving, I told her. Tears welled up in her eyes. Is it because of all this? It's because I'm ready, I said. I've spent years shrinking myself to keep the peace. That ends now. I wish I'd been a better mother, she said softly. I nodded. I wish you had too. But we can't change the past. Only what comes next. We hugged for real, not just for show. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something close to closure. Kevin tried to buy my half of the house, but I sold it to a young couple instead. A doctor and his partner looking to start a family. They were kind, respectful. They loved the upstairs layout. Before I left, I cleared out my things, took down the photos, the lab notes, the framed award I'd kept hidden in my closet. I packed my life into boxes, one by one. The day I moved out, Mrs. Callahan came by with a lemon pie and a hug. "Don't let anyone tell you who you are," she whispered. "You already know." I smiled, tears in my eyes. "I do now," I said. 1 month later, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment in San Diego, watching the sunset melt into the ocean. My lab was buzzing with energy. My new colleagues respected me. I felt seen. I felt alive. I wasn't just starting over. I was finally living a life I chose, not one I was pushed into. And for the first time, I wasn't scared to be the outsider in my own story, because now, I was the author. And this chapter, it was mine.